The story begins with a little boy named Harold. Harold isn't an ordinary child. He doesn't belong to the real world, but is actually a character from a story. But he has something very special, a magical crayon. With this crayon, whatever Harold draws becomes real. Harold was completely alone in his world, so he created two friends for himself, Moose and Porcupine. With them, he would play, laugh, and have endless fun. But as Harold started growing up, many questions began to fill his mind. He used to ask these questions to an old man. This old man was actually the writer of the story who lived in the real world and would talk to Harold. He told Harold many things about the real world, but also warned him not to go there. Then one day, suddenly, the old man's voice disappears. Harold can no longer talk to him, and this deeply troubles him inside. That's when he makes a big decision. Harold draws a door with his magical crayon, a door that leads straight to the real world. He decides that now he will go to the real world himself and take his friends along. Harold and Moose step out through the door, but Porcupine is left behind as the door suddenly closes. The moment Harold enters the real world, everything changes. He is no longer just a drawing, but a real human now, and Moose also turns into a human. For both of them, this world is completely new, and everything they see leaves them absolutely amazed. On the other side, Porcupine somehow manages to open the door again and decides to step into the real world. The moment she comes out, she also transforms into a human. Now she has a human body, and seeing this new world leaves her completely stunned. Meanwhile, Harold spots an old man sitting on a bench reading a newspaper. He thinks that this might be his old man, so he quickly walks up to him, but the man doesn't even recognize Harold and Moose and rudely sends them away. That's when Harold realizes that he's not the one. After that, Harold uses his magical crayon to draw a bicycle, and he and Moose ride it across the city searching for the old man. In the next scene, we see a boy named Mel, who is driving somewhere with his mother, Terry. Suddenly, their car bumps into Harold and Moose. Luckily, no one gets hurt, but Terry's car tire gets completely punctured. At this moment, Terry is already stressed and frustrated. That's when Harold pulls out his magical crayon to help and draws a new tire in the air, which instantly becomes real. Mel sees all of this with his own eyes and is left completely shocked, wondering how this is even possible. Meanwhile, Terry feels relieved and happy after seeing the new tire. Her problem is solved instantly, and she decides to give Harold and Moose a ride. On the way, Harold tells them that he is searching for his old man in the city, but he doesn't know anyone here. Terry and Mel have no idea that Harold and Moose are actually characters from a story, so they assume that the old man might be Harold's father whom he is trying to find. Thinking this, Terry allows Harold to stay at her house for one night, and this is where the story is about to take a new turn. That night, when Harold and Mel talk to each other, Harold learns that Mel loves drawing strange and different kinds of imaginary animals. But during this conversation, a sad truth also comes out. Mel's father is no longer in this world, and because of that, his mother Terry is always upset. Hearing this, Harold feels bad for Mel and promises to help him. Slowly, a strong friendship begins to grow between them. Now, Harold tells Mel about his magical crayon and even lets him use it. The moment Mel draws one of his imaginary flies with the crayon, it suddenly comes to life. But this fly turns out to be so dangerous that it starts attacking both of them, and in fear, Harold and Mel are forced to run away. On the other side, Porcupine, while searching for Harold, reaches a house, but something goes wrong there, and she has to escape quickly. The situation gets so serious that even the police start chasing her. The next morning, when Terry walks into the kitchen, she is shocked by what she sees. The place is filled with piles of fast food. When she asks Mel about it, he tells her that Harold created all of it using his magical crayon. Not just that, Harold had even painted the entire house with it. But when Mel explains all this, Terry doesn't believe a single word. She thinks it's all a joke and asks Harold to leave her house. Before leaving, Harold does something special. He breaks his magical crayon into two halves and gives one part to Mel because he now considers him a true friend. Mel, too, doesn't want to leave Harold alone, so he decides to go with him and help find the old man. Seeing this makes Harold truly happy, and now Harold, Mel, and Moose set off on a new journey together, where they must search for the truth and find their answers. While walking along the road, Harold once again spots an old man. He feels that maybe this time he has finally found his old man, and he quickly goes up to him. But once again, luck is not on his side. The man turns out to be a retired military officer, and the moment Harold gets close, close, he grabs him and throws him down hard. This makes Harold realize that he's not the one either. During all this, Harold notices a newspaper nearby. In it, there's an ad for a library which reads, "Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it here." That one line sticks in Harold's mind. Now Harold, Mel, and Moose decide to go to the library together because Harold truly believes he can find all his answers there. After reaching the library, they meet a librarian named Gary. Mel already knows him, so talking to him becomes a bit easier. As they talk, Harold learns that Gary has written a novel, but its story is so big and complicated that no one is willing to publish it. Now, Mel requests Gary to help them find the old man. Agreeing to help, Gary tries to search for the person Harold is looking for on his computer, but the problem is Harold doesn't know anything about his old man. No name, no place, nothing at all. Because of this, Gary is unable to help them. Feeling a bit frustrated, Gary jokingly says to Harold, "Why don't you write a message in the sky so your old man can read it and come find you himself?" Gary says this is a joke, but Harold instantly loves the idea. He feels this might be the best way. And just like that, Harold rushes out of the library and starts drawing a plane with his magical crayon to reach the sky. And from here, the story begins to move toward another exciting adventure. Meanwhile, Gary witnesses something truly shocking. With his own eyes, he sees Harold draw a plane in the air with his crayon, and it actually turns real. Seeing this, Gary is completely stunned, and now he understands that Harold isn't an ordinary child, but a character from a story holding a magical crayon. A new plan begins to form in Gary's mind. He thinks that if he wants to uncover Harold's truth, he must find the book where Harold exists, because through that book, he can learn about its writer, the old man. On the other side, Harold, Mel, and Moose fly up into the sky in that plane. Once they reach high above, Harold writes a huge message across the sky where he includes Mel's mom's phone number and asks his old man to contact him. But as the plane climbs higher, it starts losing control and suddenly begins to fall rapidly. The moment turns extremely dangerous, but Harold stays calm and with the help of his magical crayon safely brings himself, Mel, and Moose back down. Meanwhile, Terry suddenly starts receiving a flood of calls from different old men. Everyone is calling after seeing that message, and this leaves Terry completely overwhelmed. Then we see Mel at school, where some kids start picking on him, bullying him constantly. During this chaos, Mel accidentally hits one of the boys and his nose starts bleeding. Now the situation gets even worse. On the other side, Harold and Moose, while searching for Terry, reach the store where she works. After arriving there, Harold starts fooling around and asks Terry if she got any call from his old man. Hearing this, Terry finally realizes that all those calls she received were because of Harold, and this makes her really angry at him. Just then, Terry gets a call from Mel's school. The principal asks her to come immediately. Hearing this, Terry becomes even more stressed as she is now stuck between her work pressure and Mel's trouble. Now, Terry asks Harold and Moose to handle the shop in her place, and she rushes to Mel's school. At first, Harold and Moose think the job is really easy, but as time passes, they realize it's not something they can handle because they've never done anything like this before. Harold quickly loses interest in the work, so he leaves the shop and walks into the shopping area and starts using his magical crayon to create things to help people. But this is where everything goes wrong. The things he creates go out of control, and within moments, the entire shop turns into chaos with items scattered everywhere. When Terry comes back and sees all this, she is completely shocked. The situation becomes so bad that she even loses her job because it was her decision to leave Harold and Moose in charge. Seeing this, Harold feels truly guilty and apologizes to Terry. Mel also asks his mom to forgive them and reminds her that she didn't even like that job. Anyway, finally listening to Mel, Terry forgives them and they all head back home together. On the way, Harold does something sweet to cheer Terry up. He draws a piano with his magical crayon and gives it to her to play because he knows that Terry loves playing the piano, but she had stopped after her husband passed away. Slowly, Terry's mood begins to lift, and just then, Gary arrives there. Gary tells Harold that he has found out who his old man is and where he can be found. In fact, he managed to discover the name of the writer of the book, the very story where Harold exists, and that writer is Harold's old man. Suddenly, Porcupine also shows up there running while trying to escape from the police. Seeing Harold, she feels extremely happy. But at that very moment, the police arrive as well. Now, the police mistake Harold and Moose as Porcupine's partners and arrest all three of them, but Harold is not someone who gives up so easily. At the police station, he uses his magical crayon, breaks through the jail wall, and escapes with his friends. After that, Harold goes straight to Mel and takes him along. Now, all four friends filled with a new hope ride on a bike, created by Harold's magical crayon, and set off toward the house of the book's writer, the old man they've been searching for. Finally, Harold reaches the writer's house with his friends, but here he discovers a heartbreaking truth. His old man is no longer alive. He has passed away, and that's why he had stopped talking to Harold. After learning this, Harold is completely shattered. His heart sinks so deeply that even the power of his magical crayon begins to fade, and everything he created starts disappearing one by one. The saddest part is even his own friends Moose and Porcupine vanish. Now Harold is left all alone in this state. While he is with Gary, Gary cleverly asks for his magical crayon. Without thinking much, Harold hands it over, but this turns out to be his biggest mistake. The moment Gary gets the crayon, he reveals his true intentions. First, he captures Harold himself. Soon after, when Mel arrives looking for him, Gary traps him as well. But hope is not lost yet because Mel still has the other half of the crayon, the one Harold had given him earlier. With its help, the two manage to free themselves. As soon as Harold regains his friend's support, he starts to recover. His confidence returns, and the things he had created begin to come back. Moose and Porcupine reappear as well. Now Harold, along with his friends, sets out to stop Gary. They create a hot air balloon and go after him and soon manage to find him. What follows is an intense showdown between Harold and Gary. Harold tries to stop him, but Gary takes a dangerous step. He swallows the magical crayon. Now all the power flows into Gary, and he can create anything using just his hands. He transforms himself into the most powerful character from his own novel and becomes nearly unstoppable. Just then, Terry also arrives, and after witnessing everything with her own eyes, she finally believes that Harold was telling the truth. The battle grows even more dangerous. The ground starts cracking, lava begins to rise, and everything turns into a terrifying scene. But then Porcupine shows courage, finds the fallen crayon, and gets it back to Harold. Now the game changes. Harold uses the crayon to create a special giant bee, which flies straight into Gary's mouth and pulls the crayon back out. The moment the crayon comes out, all of Gary's powers vanish, and he turns back into a normal human. The chaos settles down, but Gary is left broken inside. Seeing him sad, Harold gives him a new path. He draws a door with his crayon, leading directly into the fantasy world of Gary's own novel. Gary feels happy seeing this and steps into that world, the place he always wanted to live in. But after reaching there, he realizes that his crush doesn't like him, but someone else, and now he cannot return. Meanwhile, Harold visits the old man's museum with his friends, where he finds a special message. It says, "Wherever you go, you will bring happiness to people and give them a reason to live." Reading this, Harold becomes emotional. After that, Mel gives him a set of multicolored crayons as a gift. Now it's time to say goodbye. Harold bids farewell to Mel and Terry and returns to his world with his friends. Once there, he goes back to living happily, playing and enjoying life like before. And with that, this beautiful story comes to an end. So, how did you like this movie? Do share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories like this. See you in the next video.